everyone, it's Captain Sensible back here with another quick fragrance review before that Philistine Mr. Smelly does his usual fragrance review video. And today we're going to be looking at Chanel Allure Homme Edition Blanche by Dolce & Gabbana. And the perfumier on this one is Michael Barrymore. The notes in it are bergamot, Sicilian lemon, key lime pie, and mustard gas. The projection on this one is quite good actually. I threw it at my wife and it just narrowly missed her, but it projected quite well. Now I asked my wife what she thought of it, and she seemed to quite like it. But the evening went quite well. And then we were in bed, and she said to me, "Darling, why is it that you never have your eyes open when when we're having intercourse?" And she said, "Is it? Don't you find me attractive anymore?" And I said, "Oh, darling, how could you say such a thing? Of course it's not that." Well, she said, "Well, what is it then?" I said, "Look, of course you're beautiful to me. It's just I find it much easier to concentrate on my mental image of Raquel Welch with my eyes closed."
Hello everyone, welcome back. So today we're going to be having a look at some of my top tips for buying fragrances on eBay. This will be aimed at people who are looking to buy fragrances to enjoy and wear for themselves, not people who are looking to sell the fragrances on for profit. So it's going to be my top tips. It's going to include new and used fragrances, and hopefully it's going to save you some money and help you find some bargains. And there are tons of them out there on eBay if you know what to look for. And of course, be careful because there are some naughty people trying to rip you off. Quickly before we do that, a quick check on my fragrance of the week. My purchase of the week was Pinard Clubman, a classic barbershop fragrance, a bit like Brut by Fabergé. So if you want to hear more about that one, let me know. Probably going to feature it in a video soon. But for now, let's get into my top tips on things to search for and things to avoid when you're shopping for fragrances on eBay. Okay, so my first search was for Chanel Antaeus. I've been hoping to find a vintage bottle. One of the key indicators I'm looking for is that it should say Eau de Toilette above the word Chanel on the box and the bottle. Then you know it's really quite an old formula. So I found one that said vintage Chanel Antaeus. Here it is, 100ml EDT vintage, £50. That sounds promising, so I was keen to have a look. However, we can see that Eau de Toilette is not where we want to see it, so it's a later formula. They're saying the silver sprayer makes a difference, that it's somewhat vintage, but it's not going to be, it's not the formula we're really looking for. They've given us a nice picture showing us how much is in it. That's helpful, and everything looks okay about the bottle from what I can tell, but there's always a risk buying anything on eBay. So that all looks fine. The way that the bottle looks to me looks correct, but I'm not an expert in the fine details, so I'm a little bit interested in this, but I don't think it's really the vintage. The price was quite good for the amount, so even if it's not the most pristine valued vintage there, it could be worth a look. 98.9% positive feedback. They're selling some other similar types of fragrance, so I'd think that they're probably okay, this person. So let's see what they've said about the fragrance in the description, and they are saying that it is the silver sprayer type, but it's from 2006, so something may have changed since then, and that formula may to some noses be slightly preferable to today's, but I don't think there's going to be a lot in it, so I don't regard that as vintage. However, because it's hard to find Chanel's discounted online as brand new bottles, I think that's a reasonable deal for what it was, but not an amazing bargain. Similarly, not a great bargain is Dolce & Gabbana by Man, and £220 for 100ml. Very rare, sought after fragrance, hyped up. Because it's hyped up, you're unlikely to find great deals. So these are the ones I wouldn't hold out great hope for. Stuff like By Man, that's got this Fragcom reputation. Look at this one, £303, and it's from Egypt. So it's a really lousy. The photo looks like it was taken in 1987, and it is not going to be very easy to return that one to Egypt. There's going to be a lot of messing around. Absolutely don't touch that with a barge pole. £12.50 there, your heart leaps, but it's an empty bottle. So again, finding the actual fragrance is going to be hard for a reasonable price. Check out your local chemists and stuff like that, where you might find a dusty one by someone who doesn't know or care what it is for a good price. A little aside here, Masculine by Dolce & Gabbana, £162 for 50ml of the perfumed deodorant spray. Way overpriced, no way. You can find them for £30, £50 if you're lucky, or at least I got one for that price on a Facebook group recently. And if you're patient on eBay, you can get those kind of deals. Another buy, man. My heart leapt a little bit because Eau de Toilette, £140 now. If it had a full 100ml bottle in there or something, maybe it's with some shower gels and aftershave balm, but no, it's 4ml of the Eau de Toilette, so a pathetically small sample, and some aftershave balm, which, you know, how long ago that was made, I don't know how those kind of things with shower gels hold up. No way is that a good deal. So the hyped up stuff, not so much, but I'll show you some under the radar vintage stuff later that you could find for better prices. Sort of, for example here, MV by Gucci. Not so hyped up, but it does have a bit of a reputation. 50ml for $79.99. That's sort of bang on an okay price. If you're really keen, you used to have it, you love it, you can't find it anymore. Could be an okay price if everything checks out. However, they listed that there are particles floating in the fragrance. Still smells great, they said, but that's enough that would just push me to say no on that one, with, you know, something fishy about the juice. No way. Okay, La Nuit de l'Homme, another hyped up one. Very rare to find good deals on this. They're saying it's a 2012 bottle. If you check the batch code out on Check Fresh or something like that, that would be a good way to verify that that's true. If that all checks out, $79.99 is reasonable. It's an okay price for 100ml. It's not much above retail, and you're getting the slightly vintage version. That could be okay. It's not amazing. It's okay. Here's a really good one. Searching aftershave can yield really good things, because aftershave suggests someone's listed something who doesn't really pay attention maybe to what it is, because it could be they may have listed an eau de toilette and they just call stuff aftershave because they're not that bothered, and that suggests you might get a good deal because they're not paying so much attention. And that was the case here. Yves Saint Laurent's discontinued original formula of M7, the oud fragrance, classic fragrance. They're calling it obsolete. I think they mean, yeah, discontinued, but obsolete has a bad connotation. Rare. So they know they've got something sort of good, but they're selling it at a reasonably fair price because it's £45. Now, if it's the aftershave, we're not so interested, probably. They tend to be weaker. You want the eau de toilette. But if we look closely there, that is the eau de toilette. It's 100ml originally, and this, I think they said 65% of it is left, which we're going to see in a moment. There it is. So, well, let's round that down. Maybe they're being a bit generous to themselves as how much left, but it's still a good price. And I searched aftershave to find that. So some of the less obvious hyped up stuff, like M7 maybe, that is really well known as being good, but just doesn't have this silly hype train behind it. These can be good value bargains, or at least reasonable prices on eBay. Here's one that's not so much. Avoid, I think, things like Tom Ford and Creed, the big name niche stuff. Men's Tom Ford aftershave, tobacco oud, eau de parfum. They're saying they bought it from Selfridges for £230. Woman gave us the wrong fragrance. Something not right about that. I've forgotten the price, but why would you just take it back, wouldn't you? You wouldn't let that happen. There's something fishy about that. Avoid. Aventus, obviously, Aventus should not come with a box with a picture of Napoleon like that. It just should come with the black box. Definitely no cellophane should be on it. I can't see any there anyway, but that's clearly a fake, and there's tons of those. So Aventus on eBay, I would just say avoid. The most faked thing on earth in fragrances. You know, wait, save up, buy it, maybe on a discount website, even retail, but don't buy this from eBay. £146, and people have bid on that. 4 bids. That's just not okay. So yeah, Aventus, forget it. Next up, another type of thing that's fine to buy on eBay. These are brand new fragrances. Animal Sport, the people who did Animal, that I think smells a bit like some of the Thierry Mugler fragrances. The sports version apparently smells really similar to Creed's Jardin d'Amalfi, so I might buy this. £23.95. There are some things that I can only find on eBay, and I've had no problem with these kind of cheap fragrances that you might not be able to find anywhere else. So eBay can be great for under-the-radar fragrances, cheapies, things that are only known about by a few of us in the Fragcom, and maybe they're out there on a couple of YouTube videos. Sometimes eBay is the only place I've been able to find them, so it's great for that. I've had good experience, I've had no problems with them. Similarly, Rassasi's Darege, really nice, spicy, oriental, vanilla-type fragrance, £20.23. I would buy that there, no problem. I have no issue with those kind of cheapies on eBay. Normally they turn out to be really good. Sometimes you can only find them on eBay. So eBay can be great for stuff like that. La Venture by Al Haramain, similarly, I got that way. Jules by Dior. Now this is a rare one that's not so hyped up, so I searched for Dior Jewels and I found this one, and it's the Eau de Toilette vintage formulation bottle, about 45 mils left, that looks about right for the picture, and £55. Now it's a really rare, hard to find fragrance. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you're a collector, if you're into this kind of fragrance, old school masculines similar to Kouros, but with its own little thing, maybe a bit more green and fresh than Kouros, but does have some animalic 80s kind of beastly notes in there. Really, really good fragrance, and this is a sprayer. There are different bottles. I've got a different one, and it's a 30ml, very different design, so this is a little bit later, but it's still going to be very much that vintage old formula. It's been re-released recently, but this is the old stuff with real oak moss. It looks okay to me, and the price was very good. I just typed Dior Jewels to find that one, so some of the less obvious vintage stuff you can still get great deals. Now £55, 45 mils, no box, that sounds okay. 100% positive feedback for this seller, and let's see how many things they've sold. They've sold 1,002, so to have 100% positive feedback, that suggests you can have some confidence. And if we look at their other items, it's mainly perfumes. They're selling a lot of other fragrances, and they're turning out a lot of stuff and getting 100% positive feedback. I think this is a reasonably fair seller, and that's a reasonably good, almost a little bit of a bargain price if you're really keen to find that fragrance, but because not everyone's interested in that one, prices are still reasonable. So to summarise, buying on eBay, avoid, or at least don't get your hopes up for really hyped up discontinued stuff, because the prices tend to be extortionate. Search for less obvious things like maybe aftershave, used men's fragrances, and you might find things where people have just found it in their deceased father's cupboard and decided to sell it. That kind of thing, where they're not that interested in trying to get big money out of you for stuff. So the under the radar kind of words, aftershave, just used men's fragrance, things like that. If you search vintage fragrance, or specifically for the one you're after, you may find a good deal, but it's slightly less likely. And also cheap stuff like Al Rehab Silver, no problem. Some of the clones out there from Arabian houses, I've had great success with those, and I find eBay a really good price, a really good place to buy those kind of fragrances. So that's my little summary. Look out for under the radar vintage stuff. Be patient. Type in used men's fragrance, type in aftershave, type in maybe vintage fragrance, and take your time, be patient. If you find something that looks sort of interesting, maybe look at sellers' other items. If a seller has something that you've never heard of, but it looks sort of interesting, then look at their other items, and there may be someone who just happens to have a lot of interesting old fragrances, and that's how I've stumbled across a few good ones. So be patient, take your time, maybe don't always search for a specific fragrance that you want, but to cast your net a little bit wider, maybe just look at general search terms and then see things that look interesting. Sometimes you'll even see a bottle that just looks interesting. You can then go on Fragrantica and find out about it. Maybe there's great reviews, but it doesn't have a lot of fame. Versace versus Omo, I got that way. This is my way of shopping on eBay. So great for old discontinued stuff and great for new cheap stuff. Not so great for obvious hyped up stuff. Avoid the creeds and things like that. It's just not worth the stress and the risk, even though you might get occasionally a good one for a fair price. The percentage of fakes and nasty people out there is too high. That's my advice, so let me know what you thought of that, and let me know any tips you've got for buying fragrances on eBay. Remember, whatever we're doing in life, let's project. See you in the next video. Bye bye.